R18 and only on Kiwi.
Kiwi.
You're listening to the Radio Ammo Breakfast, only on Kiwi.
All right, let's talk politics now with the leader of the Labour Party. Of course, it's Phil Goff this morning. Good morning, Phil.
G'day, Wemo. How are you?
Not bad. Great weekend, was it?
Oh, a busy weekend, yeah. Had functions up till late last night and a new school opening in my electorate, which was very exciting. That's
funny, a new school opening at a time when some schools have been closed.
Yeah, well, this is a very special school because when they put State Highway 20 through my electorate, one of the schools in my electorate, a Catholic school called Christ the King, was standing in the way of it, both the church and the school. So Transit, or now New Zealand Transport Agency, because they needed the land with the old school and the old church, we very kindly rebuilt a new church and a new school. And we had the Governor-General and the Bishop of Auckland, Pat Dunn, along and doing the honours. And they must have prayed hard at Mass yesterday morning because the cloud threatened and looked like it was going to rain, and it was all outdoors, and it stayed fine the whole way through. So there you are.
So you weren't marching for democracy on the weekend?
No, look, I'm not in support of what the group is asking for. I believe in some cases you've got to have binding referenda on constitutional changes, so it's quite appropriate that for whether we keep MMP or go back to first past the post or change to another system, that's a system that is about the Constitution of New Zealand, shouldn't be decided by politicians, should be decided by people. But if you want to move to a system where every decision that somebody decides ought to be subject to a referendum, your danger is you end up with a situation like California, where everybody decided it was a great idea, you'd have 3 strikes and you're out and you'd treble your prison population, and at the same time they decided it was a great idea that the state government shouldn't be able to raise any more taxes. And the result was, as you can imagine, an absolute disaster. They had crowded prisons, nowhere to put them. The state went broke, having to release tens of thousands of inmates. I think on those more complex issues, it's not easy simply to put a simple question down to the electorate and say, well, what do you want? Because what you want and what you can afford to do and the implications of what you want all have to be part of the equation, not just a simple, yeah, I'd like to do this today, I might feel differently about it tomorrow. So I think...
Is that because the population as a whole, in general, just not very smart?
No, I don't think it's that at all. I just know that when you sit around a cabinet table and make a decision, sometimes you spend weeks and weeks reading through papers, reading the background, becoming informed, understanding what the implications are. And for the average person voting in a referendum, which is just a simple question on probably quite a complex problem, it's not possible to do that. Maybe 2 or 3% of the population will, get on the net, do the homework, etc. Yeah. But basically, these are hard decisions, and you've got to spend a lot of time focused on it. And I just don't think, the reason why most Western democracies aren't run by referenda is for that very good factor.
And another way of saying this is that that generally most of the population is quite ignorant to the issues.
Let me put it this way, they got a broad understanding of the issues, and the same applies to parliamentarians. You're not an expert on everything, but before you make a decision in a particular area, you've got to have, in this case, a minister, a ministry, and a group of people in cabinet, supported by a group of people in parliament, that say, yes, given the complexity of this issue, this is the way that we'll go, and this is what we can do. Now, the other problem with a referendum, if you have a referendum and it decides one thing, surely you've got to have a referendum to undo the thing that you've decided, and that makes for a huge level of inflexibility in decision making. Today we might all think something about a particular issue. Tomorrow there might be new evidence up, and we might think a different way. So it's not a reflection on the inadequacy of the New Zealand population. It's just what systems really work, and whether people have access to sufficient information at the time to make a decision that could be quite a complex decision.
Well, it's not the only protest, of course, that's happened over the last week or so. There was the biker protest, which you took part in as well. How did that go in Wellington?
Well, it was phenomenal, actually. There was over 6,000 bikers there. More bikers actually turned up in Wellington than turned up in the march in Auckland. And first thing was it was a very responsible gathering. Really, a great cross section of New Zealanders. The young to the old, all parts of the community. And they were responsible, but clearly they were pretty angry. When your ACC registration is going to go from $252 to $735 a year, you're going to be pretty angry about it if you don't think that it's justified.
So are you happy that the government is going to now look at those fees again and perhaps adjust them?
Well, no, I'm not happy because we don't know what they're going to do. And, it might be the case of, I'm going to charge you $1,000 for this, and you say, that's outrageous. Okay, well, you can have it for $500 when really it's only worth $200. It might simply be a political tactic in that way. What I want to say on behalf of bikers very quickly is, firstly, if a biker has an accident, and I know I've had 2 accidents in my biking career over 40 years. One was where a car went straight through a giveaway, which apparently it didn't see and didn't see me either. Now, that's a bike accident, but I wasn't the cause of it. The second accident was when I canned out on Mount Eden Road opposite the quarry because a truck had spilt a load of gravel across the corner, and when I leant the bike over, the wheels went out from under it. Now,
how did you come off on that one?
Well, not bad, actually. Well, There's a bit of a story there. It was when I was a young fellow at university, and I had my girlfriend on the back, and we came off, the bike went out from under us, slid along the road for about 100 metres, and we slid along behind it, and the throttle jammed on, and it was revving at top revs, and I knew that's going to blow the head on the bike. So I raced over to the bike, turned it off, turned around, and there was my girlfriend sitting on the curb glaring at me. And why is it that your bike was more important than me?
And was that the last time you saw her?
No, I'm now married to her, so it worked out okay, but she still hasn't forgiven me.
Yeah. But the fact that they're going to look at these fees again is probably a positive move. It's better than staying to the fee structure that is proposed.
Well, anything that is less than that is obviously better, but is it justified? Is it reasonable? That's the real question you've got to ask. And I think what bikers are saying, look, this isn't a fair go. You're really hammering us on it. And, okay, it might be more dangerous to be on a bike, not because of the biker, but because of other factors. But if we're going to move down user pays, how long is it before you're going to start charging a levy on people who pay sport? Because it's far more dangerous playing sport than sitting on the couch being a couch potato. How long is it before we start putting an extra levy on the elderly? Because when people get to my dad's age, they start to have falls and they require more injury treatment and hospitalisation. Is user pays really the way that we want to go in this area? And most New Zealanders say, look, our no-fault ACC system is actually cheaper to administer, more efficient, provides better benefits at a lower cost than any of the privatised schemes that the government apparently wants to move to that you see overseas.
Now, finally, Phil, just very quickly, a major move that you made at the end of last week. You've ended a consensus on monetary policy. What does that mean?
Well, what it means is that we don't think our monetary policy is working as well as it needs to work, and you can see that by the fact that I guess for 40 years we've spent more overseas than we've earned. We've still got the highest interest rates, or the second highest interest rates, if you look at the 3-month interest rate in the world. And we've got one of the most traded currencies in the world, which means that we've got a really volatile exchange rate. All of those things cripple the ability of exporters. And if we want a recovery out of this recession that's sustainable, it has to be an export-led recovery, and the present monetary settings aren't helpful in achieving that goal.
Now, we've had the emphasis over the past, over 20 years on using interest rates as a tool to keep inflation down. Are you saying that is not the way forward?
Well, what I'm saying is that price stability is obviously a really important, probably the most important goal in monetary policy, but it's not the only goal. If you look at the Aussie situation, they've got full employment and prosperity as other goals alongside monetary stability. And if you look at interest rates, the problem is when you push up interest rates to try to dampen the economy, you attract in all the hot money out of Japan and Europe. That then has more money washing around, which increases the inflationary pressures in the economy. and the exporters, again, that don't cause the inflation, find that their interest rates are higher and their exchange rates higher, and those two things combine to make them uncompetitive in the world. That's why our exporters have been finding it so hard, other than in those areas where our commodity prices are really high. It's time to look again at the problem and see if we can come up with a better answer.
Okay, thanks very much, Phil Goff.
Thanks, Wemo.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Leader of the Labour Party.